Hey loves, welcome back to the channel. Today we're stepping into an aesthetic that feels composed, intelligent, and deeply personal poetcore. And the more you see it, the more you realize this isn't just a fashion moment, it's a mindset. Poetcore isn't built for spectacle or trends, it's built for thought. It's fashion that looks quiet from the outside, but feels rich, intentional, and warm once you understand it. The kind of style that draws attention naturally, simply because every detail feels carefully considered. It has that feeling of walking into a library on a rainy afternoon, confident without being showy, romantic without being obvious, sophisticated in a way that feels natural, not forced. So today we're breaking down the poetcore aesthetic, what it is, why it's suddenly everywhere, and how it became one of the most intriguing style shifts right now. Let's get into it. First, what is the poetcore aesthetic? The poetcore aesthetic is rooted in thoughtfulness, restraint, and quiet self-expression. It's artistic and unique, intellectual, but never cold. You'll usually see her dressed in classic silhouettes, tailored blazers, black turtlenecks, straight-leg trousers, and vintage-inspired pieces that feel collected over time rather than bought all at once. She isn't trying to stand out. She simply exists in her own rhythm, and that confidence speaks for itself. Poetcore isn't about trends or dramatic statements, it's about depth and creativity. It reflects a love for ideas, literature, and inner worlds. This is the girl who values substance over spectacle. Her clothes feel calm, grounded, and expressive in a quiet way. Think outfits that look just as natural in a library, a museum, or a long walk through the city with headphones in. There's romance here, but it's subtle, the kind that reveals itself slowly. What makes poetcore so compelling is how personal it feels. This style doesn't ask you to become someone else. It allows you to dress as you already are, reflective, creative, observant. The silhouettes are classic, the colors are restrained, and the overall feeling is composed. It's not nostalgic, but it does feel timeless, like it exists outside of fast fashion cycles and seasonal pressure. What makes it even more distinctive is how it blends elements of academia, library core, and study core with 90s sophistication and a subtle artsy edge. It's a look that feels curated yet effortless, scholarly yet deeply personal. Now let's talk clothing style. Tailored, intellectual, and sophistication. The poetcore wardrobe is built around structure and softness working together. Tailored blazers are essential, often vintage, slightly oversized, and worn with ease. They add authority without stiffness, giving the outfit a scholarly, composed feel. A blazer in this aesthetic doesn't feel corporate, it feels artistic, like something worn while writing, reading, or observing the world quietly. Black and dark-toned turtlenecks are a signature piece. They create clean lines, frame the face, and instantly elevate the entire look. Paired with trousers or a midi skirt, they give off that unmistakable 90s intellectual, sleek outlook, thoughtful and understated. Button-down shirts, especially in white or cream, add another layer of quiet polish and work beautifully under knits or jackets. Bottoms stay classic and intentional. Straight-leg trousers, pleated pants, or wool midi skirts that move softly as you walk. Denim, if worn, is dark and structured, nothing distressed or overly casual. Everything feels balanced. Nothing pulls attention away from the overall composition. Layering plays a huge role here, but it's never excessive. A coat draped over the shoulders, a knit vest layered over a crisp shirt, a scarf worn loosely, almost absent-mindedly. These layers add depth and texture, making the outfit feel lived in and personal rather than styled. Fabric choices matter deeply in poetcore. Wool, structured cotton, soft knits, and worn leather dominate the wardrobe. These materials feel grounded in substantial clothes that age well and grow more beautiful with time. Footwear follows the same logic. Loafers, ankle boots, ballet flats, or sleek leather boots that feel practical yet refined. What makes this style stand out is its wearability. These are pieces you can reach for every day and still feel like yourself. Whether you're writing, studying, wandering through the city, or sitting quietly with a book, the clothes never overpower you. They support you. That's the poetcore way. Next is the color palette, literary neutrals and quiet depth. The Poetcore color palette is restrained, thoughtful, and deeply calming. It's built around shades that feel intellectual and timeless, colors that feel like part of your daily rhythm rather than a seasonal trend. Black is foundational, sleek, grounding, and endlessly versatile. It's the black of a favorite vintage pen, gliding across cream-colored paper, or the turtleneck you pull on as you step out into a crisp, cloudy morning. Charcoal, deep brown, espresso, muted navy, and soft gray add layers of depth without heaviness. Charcoal feels like wet cobblestones on a rainy walk to the library. Brown reminds you of the worn spines of books lined up on tall wooden shelves. These shades have texture in your mind before your hands even touch the fabrics. Ivory and cream soften the darker tones, creating contrast that feels warm rather than sharp. They're like sunlight filtering through the library windows, casting a soft glow on polished wood and leather-bound tomes. Camel, taupe, and soft beige add subtle warmth, like the cozy feeling of slipping into a trench coat as you hop on the bus, headphones tucked in, notebook in hand. These lighter shades give the palette air, openness, and a human touch. Occasionally, deeper accent colors appear: red, forest green, muted burgundy, or dusty plum. These shades feel literary and collected, like ink-stained pages or the velvet lining of an old satchel. They're never bright or showy. They're there to give richness, depth, and character, the way a rainy afternoon adds weight and intimacy to a quiet walk home from a cafe or museum. Patterns are subtle and classic. Think thin stripes, gentle plaids, herringbone, or faint checks patterns that feel archival, like something you'd notice in a vintage study or tucked inside a forgotten book. Nothing clashes. Everything works together seamlessly. The palette doesn't demand effort. It rewards quiet consistency and thoughtful layering. Texture elevates these colors even further. Matte wool absorbs the soft light of an overcast day. Leather carries the marks of everyday life, polished yet worn. Fine knits wrap around you like a private moment in a cafe with your journal. Structured cotton keeps everything composed as you move between the subway, the library, and the city streets. Together, the colors and fabrics create a look that feels quiet, intelligent, and lived in, like a day spent in thought, creativity, and reflection, fully immersed in the world around you. Next is the accessories and details, living the Poetcore life. This is where Poetcore truly becomes more than fashion. It becomes a lifestyle. Accessories in this aesthetic aren't decorative. They're expressive. A structured leather satchel or a vintage-inspired tote is essential, something that looks like it carries books, notebooks, and personal thoughts. It's practical, weighty, and timeless, never trendy or flashy. A notebook is always nearby, tucked under the arm or pulled out at a cafe. Maybe it's filled with poetry, journal entries, or quiet observations from the day. Paired with a pen that feels intentional metal, fountain style, or vintage-inspired writing becomes part of the aesthetic itself. It's thoughtful, slow, and personal. Books are not props here. They're real, worn, and read. A novel, a poetry collection, an essay book. Sometimes a crossword puzzle folded neatly, taken out during a quiet moment. These details suggest curiosity and a love for thought, not performance. Wired headphones add a subtle, intellectual nostalgia. Maybe you're listening to an audiobook, a lecture, or soft instrumental music while walking through the city. It feels focused, private, and reflective, like you're slightly removed from the noise around you. A vintage camera often appears too. Something analog, imperfect, and expressive. Used to capture architecture, art, light, or quiet moments that feel meaningful. Photography here isn't about perfection, it's about observation. Glasses add character and depth. A watch with history. A scarf worn casually. These details don't shout sophistication, they imply it. Now on to why girls are loving the Poetcore aesthetic. Right now, Poetcore feels like a shift. After years of fashion aesthetics built around excess, performance, or extreme minimalism, this style offers something different: introspection, individuality, and quiet confidence. It doesn't demand attention. it earns it. There's also an insider awareness growing around Poetcore. Pinterest has already identified it as one of the defining aesthetics shaping 2026, signaling a broader cultural move toward intellectual style and personal depth. People are craving fashion that feels meaningful again, not just visually appealing, but emotionally resonant. Girls are drawn to Poetcore because it feels authentic. It values thinking, creativity, and intention. It allows you to be soft without being fragile, polished without being rigid. It feels like an aesthetic you grow into rather than out of. In a fashion landscape that often repeats itself, Poetcore stands apart. It's quiet, it's unique, and it feels deeply personal. That's why it resonates and why it's only just beginning. And that's Poetcore, from its tailored silhouettes and literary palette to its thoughtful details and intellectual heart. This aesthetic reminds us that fashion can be creative and sophisticated. Sometimes the most compelling style is the one that feels true, calm, and deeply personal. So carry the book, write the notes, wear the blazer like it belongs to you. Let your style reflect your creativity and uniqueness. Let me know in the comments, does Poetcore speak to you? Or have you always dressed like a thinker? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, stay curious, stay composed, and I'll see you in the next one.